All right, I've got 8:05, Mike. So whenever you're ready, you can go ahead and get started.
Okay.
And I guess before we get started, give us a brief introduction of yourself and where you're
Okay.
from and kind of how we got interested in Camp Red Mill.
Okay. I'm Mike Thigpen from Gunnersville. I've been here since 1973. This is one of those things. Before I get started, if it all works out, I have another complete presentation that I can do next year on the actual how Red Mill property got into this guy's family and the workings of the property. And I actually have the achievements of the man that he was given everything under the, presented everything silver beaver. He had an eagle class named after him, just bunches and bunches of stuff. And I'd like to maybe sometime present that next year as part 2 of Red Mill. But anyway, this is one of the times that if you're in the right place at the right time, sometimes it's a great thing. And I just happen to be in the right place at the right time to be in the workings of Camp Red Mill, because I was able to be in charge of the chairman of the round table at the time that Red Mill became available. And it worked out. Of the camporees we had there, I never missed a one. They even, I don't like, I feel like I'm not bragging, but anyway, they treated me so good there. They wouldn't let cars down in the park, down in the camp, except 2, and one of them was mine. They even had a parking place with my name on it. And as soon as, of course, I always worked, seemed like late on Friday night. The time I got there, they were already eating, but they would save me up something to eat. The boys would grab my tent, put it up. And this happened every camporee. I didn't ask for it. It just happened. And it meant a whole lot more to me than the boys and the men will ever know. But anyway, this patch on the front is the actual camp patch. It's not a camporee patch, and I'll explain how it came about later on. Okay. Let's see if I can get rid of something up here. Uh-oh.
Go back.
I'll go back. Can't go back. I got it. I hit something up here I shouldn't have. Uh-oh. There we go. The beginnings of Camp Red Mill, and I want to dedicate it to the man that provided the property. And some of you know him, Charlie Kennedy. He was, a scoutmaster long before I ever got started. And he was a scoutmaster of 1 or 2 jamborees, and I know he was an assistant of another jamboree. He's been to Philmont. He took the first actual contingent of Achinachi Lodge to NOAC in 1990. Charlie's still alive. He's got some health problems, and he just lost his wife, but overall he's doing really well. And I'm gonna make copies of this and give him a copy of the program for him. I wish I had Charlie here. He has such a good personality, and he loved boys, and he treated every one of them with respect, and it didn't matter who they were or where they came from. He loved the boys. Anyway, when we first started, we Troop 60 of Arab designed us a gateway before we even had our first camporee, if I'm not mistaken. And this is after it was brought up there by them, and this is when they were getting ready to install it. And you can see the road that goes down in camp behind this. The property was the former former property of the Kennedy family, and Charlie actually was able to buy the property back in 1992. And I didn't put everything that I'm gonna say in writing, but it was always Charlie's dream to have a permanent camporee site in Marshall County, because even though we had to have the Guntersville State Park here and they would let us camp, it was always the same. And it just didn't have anything other than the water, and we were too close to the road. But anyway, when this came available, Charlie bought it for back, not just for the scouts, but I guess mainly 99% of it was the scouts, although he did and his family did do some camping there. And you can see where it got the name Red Mill. I don't have a pointer, or there's a pointer on here, but that is an old grist mill. And that's on the bridges right before, or on the road to the bridges right before you get into where you turn down to camp. And the water runs right down down a bluff where we all set up camp when we first started this. This road behind the mill is going to play a big part in why, or part of the reason why the camps had to be camporees had to stop there. Anyway, this is the first camporee at Red Mill. It was a repelling and getting to meet everyone. It's the only camporee patch that is not numbered. It was designed by Charlie. It was done in 1995. And of course, it was a winter camporee. And if I remember correctly, this was one of the milder winters we had. So we had a really good chance. And Charlie had bought all this nice repelling stuff to go down the cliffs. And the kids just loved it because they had never done anything like that before. And back in the 90s, we were able to do some things that they probably wouldn't let us do today. But this is just one of the many camporees that were held in the Marshall District, but now we have a permanent place to have them. The second camporee is the 1995 Spring Camporee, and the theme was an Iron Man, crosscut, sawing, campfire building, and first aid. It was designed by Walker Seegers. If some of you may know Walker, he was an employee of the Boaz County school system for years and drove a school bus. And then after he retired, he became a DE for a few years. And Walker was an outstanding leader in Boaz and Albertville area, and of course in Marshall County. The third patch was in 1995 in the Fall Camporee. The theme was back to nature. It was designed by a young man in Charlie's troop, or a young scout named Mark Scarborough. Mark was quite the character. You know, you always have some that you never ever forget, and he's one that I don't think anybody that met him would ever forget him. He was quite a young man and quite a rascal, but we all loved him. The fourth patch was in 1996, and it was a winter camporee. The theme was survival in the wilderness. Troops were asked not to sleep in tents. They were to make their own shelters, and it was cold. The patch was designed by Ken Burns and Walker Seegers. Ken and Walker both had been scoutmasters and assistant scoutmaster of Troop 71 in Albertville for as long as I can remember. Ken actually lived fairly close to Camp Red Mill, which the address of Camp Red Mill was Albertville, but it actually was in the Hustleville community. Okay, it won't move. Uh-oh, let's see. Patch number 5, 1996 Spring Camporee. And of course, that's when the Olympics were going on in Atlanta. So we had a patch that we designed around that. And I think we waited too long and the patch didn't come in on time. But Charlie had this really ambitious little granddaughter named Blaine. And they had just gotten her a button making machine. So they all got together and took pictures, and somehow we came up with 125 buttons for the participants with a patch picture on them. And the patch was designed by Charlie Kennedy. The buttons, I don't know, I didn't have a lot of trouble getting a picture, but Ken Reese supplied that picture for me, and I thank him for that. Uh-oh. Did I miss 6? Okay, patch number 7 was the winter camporee. Troop 71 from Albertville built I'm just going to elaborate. Built a shelter that was 2-story, and it's the coldest camporee that I think I have ever been on. And we would, several adults would get up in the upstairs of the shelter they built and play rook. Oh, seemed like all night, but I think somebody told me it was like the 3. And but we like to froze to death. But you know, you wouldn't take anything in the world for those memories. I don't know. Some of these I don't remember or didn't have a record of who designed them. Patch 8 was the 97 spring camporee. And this was a special camporee because it how many of you have ever seen I'm sorry, this gets me every time, and it got me when they did it. But they, for 2 hours, Troop 60 of ARAB, I don't know how to compare it except to a funeral of the retiring and burning of the American flag. It was, I mean, everybody there was in some type of just awe, and some had tears, and some just like me. I didn't know, I'd never seen that, and it was. I'll never forget that camporee. It was just one of those things you always remember. And of course you can tell, and I'm betting that the troop from ARAB probably designed it, but I'm not positive. But it has their gate on the patch. The patch number 9 is the 98 camporee. This camporee was teaching Native American skills. We did something I know you can't do it now. We made 6-inch Bowie knives. I guess they really weren't Bowie knives, but they were sheath knives, and they had deer handles, and we had the blades done and ready, and we let the boys drill the holes in the deer horn or deer antlers and glue them down. And we did not let them have them. We gave them to their scoutmaster when they finished their knife, and they had to be a certain age to make it. And then we told the scoutmaster when they got back, would discuss with their parents whether or not they could have the knife. I didn't really design the patch. It's a patch, an old little camporee patch. Ken might recognize it. Camp Ross, I think. One time they had a Marshall District camporee at Camp Ross, and this is just a copy of the shape of the patch with red mill on it. Patch number 10. I don't know how many of you know Kevin Howard, but Kevin is a prankster and a great scouter. Wish he was still active, but he always wanted to do something funny. So you can tell this is a spring camporee, and that's a spring in the middle of the patch. It was just one of these camporees where we mainly had fun and enjoyed one another's company. Okay, we're getting into a little bit more interesting things. There was no fall camporee patch, so the winter camporee patch was made. There was a fall camporee strip made to go under the winter camporee patch. The winter camporee patch was numbered 11. The theme of the winter camporee was the creek that runs through Red Mill. So you can see that for some reason, and I really don't remember why we didn't design that patch, but we decided after we had a full patch that we could do a strip under it and just have something to go in its place for that year. And if you'll notice, and I don't know, I'm sure a lot of your districts did, we had 3 camporees a year. And when we approached to having the 15th camporee out there, at one of the round tables, all the scoutmasters decided, let's do something different and something fun. So we designed a segment for each camporee, and then at the last one we put in the 15, and of course it makes a circle that looks like this. And this was like I said, done and approved by the round table and the scoutmasters at the round table. I think most of these patches are, I guess if you hunted them hard enough, you could probably find them, but I think one of the segments is probably one of the harder camporee patches. Of course, camporee patches, unless there's something really special, or no West Point camporee at the military academy, are never going to be valuable, but they're always, I still have mine from when I was a boy, and I love them. All right, this is the only patch at Camp Red Mill. There's not a camporee patch, and that is, of course, it doesn't have a number. They were supposed to be, we may have this a little wrong, we're not sure. 3 or 4 of us got together and discussed it, but there was supposed to be a training session at Camp Comer, but it was moved to Red Mill for some reason or another. And it was some type of training that went on, and it was held in 1999. So it had to be the Greater Alabama Council at that time. When this first started, of course, it was the Chockalaka Council. And if I forget to tell it this, I often think of stuff. Charlie leased this property to the Chockalaka Council and the Greater Alabama Council for $1 a year, just for legal reasons. So insurance and stuff like that would work. But does anybody, if you know, you can tell me after I finish, that the SET in the fleur-de-lis stands for something, and we're not sure what. I guess I could have got a hold of somebody in Birmingham, but I didn't. Patch number 16 is the 2000 camporee, and it was just a patch on fire building and other skills. Patch 17, the 2000 fall camporee. This was a Cub Scout crossover camporee, and Ken Burns was always working with the Cub Scouts, and he always had a bunch of them follow him into his troop, and he designed this patch. Patch number 18, the 2001 winter camporee. The theme was winter survival camping, patch designed by Charlie Kennedy. Charlie loved patch designing. He loved Red Mill. Patch 19 to 2001 camporee. Each troop cooked meal for another troop. They shared their cooking skills, but there was a lot of rain that weekend, so they had a time figuring out places to cook, but the guys managed to do it. Patch 20, the fall camporee. The theme that weekend was identifying trees and plants. And patch 21, it was a winter camporee, and the skills were first aid and other skills. At this time, it was rumored, and we thought it might be the last of the Marshall County campouts at Red Mill. And as it turned out, it was. The patch was designed by the troop from Albertville. I guess I can read this. It's not that long. The Red Mill property was leased to the Choccolocco Council in the fall of 1994 by Charlie Kennedy for $1 a year. This was the same agreement with the GAC after the merger. It has always been Charlie's dream to have a permanent scout camp for Marshall County because it was so hard to find available areas to hold camporees in Marshall County. The camp is on a bluff with a creek running below. At one time, the property had active coal mines and a grist mill. The boys were able to rappel from the bluffs and see the old coal mines that were closed. Each troop in Marshall County had their own campsite, and they were encouraged to use the property at any time. You didn't just have to have a camporee. I know a lot of troops during those years that it was there went and camped on their own, and that suited Charlie just fine. The camp operated until the winter of 2002 for camporees. At that time, because of road work on bridges near the property had to be sold. What happened was you had this bridge that only one car could go across it at a time. And on the other side, the other car had to wait until that crossed. And that was becoming a real problem. They had several wrecks there. And the state finally, and the county finally built a nice bridge. And it took the property, and Charlie had to make a terrible decision. And he decided that it was better for everybody and his family, especially, if he just went ahead and sold the property. All the patches you saw, except for that one I'm not sure about, that was the one that was the SET patch, were made by the Krellman Patch Company, and they were 200 of each made. I know this is true because I'm the one that ordered them and paid for them. The following troops made use of the camp during this time. Albertville had 2 troops: Arab, Asbury, Boaz, Douglas, Grant, Gunnersville, and I hope I didn't miss anybody, but I could have. The Marshall County Boy Scouts will always be indebted to Charlie Kennedy for providing the property with great memories where great memories were made. And thank you to Adam Howard, Kevin Howard, Ken Reese, Eric Ross, and their assistants with this program. I don't know if I got another page or not. I meant to tell you, I forget which camporee it was. It was one of the earlier ones. They built a bathroom, and a nice bathroom for just an outdoor area. You know, it had doors, and it was just a nice shelter. But the health department got word of it and came out there and inspected it, and they shut it down. So we all went to Port Alens. Any questions?
Yeah, Mike, can you tell us about the camp patch on this screen?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry, I meant to do that. I could look at my notes. The camp patch. Some of us, I forgot who instigated it, but we decided we needed a patch to give to Charlie in bulk to just give out, and we just came up with what we call a standard camp patch, and we gave him a pack of 50 and told him to give them out at his discretion. And I don't know how many's on here tonight. Well, did anybody see how many people are on here? Anyway, I've got 18 of them left, and if you want one and you see me, I'll be glad to give you one. And that's the story of that patch. Like on the other part, I said there's several scouts that did things out there as individuals and as troops to help the camp. There was one scout that made a part that you could go and he did the 12 points of the scout laws, and he had a station for each one of them, and there's a brochure that goes with that. One of the scout and his troop built a gorgeous shelter for everybody to get under in case of bad weather, and also had a nice barbecue grill under it. And there was even a little cabin that Charlie built, him and his son-in-law built, that was a 2-room log cabin right on the bluff of that water. And when it was running, you could sit on that porch and just listen all day long. It had 2 rooms, 2 beds in one room to sleep in, and the other room had a sink and a little wood burning stove. But it was if you were lucky enough, he'd let you spend the night in there. I got to spend the night in there once during the camporees. Most of the time it was either an older scout that had done something good that got to stay in there, or one of the scoutmasters that would stay in there that had earned some kind of award or something.
We got a question in the chat from Joe Pate. I think I know the answer, but I'll go ahead and ask it. And he said, has this place been used since that last event in 2001 or 2002?
It may have been just a troop going out there camping. I don't know whether the man that Charlie sold it to allowed anybody else to camp out there or not. I wish I knew. I should go out there and see, but I didn't know if the guy would like. You got to sort of drive down through a pasture to get to the entrance. And I don't know. I'm sure the gate's not there anymore, but I don't know what happened to it. I need to ask Charlie if he knows what happened to the gate that goes down in there. But it worried me more than I guess it did anybody. Those bluffs were high. I mean, really high. And there was no barrier. If a kid walked in his sleep or something, they could have walked right off of those cliffs. Eric, did you ever go out?
Just a few times.
You remember how steep they were?
Oh yeah, they're almost straight down.
And each troop site each troop had a permanent campsite, and there were 2 or 3 of them that were pretty close to the bluffs, and that always was on my mind about that. But thank goodness we never had an accident like that. We had a few accidents, but nobody fell off the cliffs.
When you went through the gate within just about 15 feet, it was all downhill.
Oh yeah.
You went downhill about 100 feet, and then there was a little, I guess, a road, and campsites were on both sides. And they built a pavilion, some sort, best I remember. And but then on the lower side of the road, the campsites were on, the bluff. Yeah,
that road going down to camp was sort of a good sized hill. You needed a pickup if it had rained or anything to get back out once you went down. And they were always borrowing a bobcat or something to work on the road. And most of you know that a pharmacist does not know how to run a bobcat, and they let me try to run a bobcat one day out there, and I think I got laughed at more than I've ever been laughed at in my life trying to use a bobcat. It's not an easy thing to do, but that was not for me. Anybody else? Is that long enough, Chris?
No, that was great. This is a piece of history that I don't think very many people, unless you were in this area at that time, there's a lot of people who probably have never even heard of this. Like, I've never heard of it. And so it's really cool to just kind of sit and listen to some of the stories. What I would like to do is I'd like to get you and Charlie, if he's available, and some of the other guys together and just put you guys around a table with some microphones and ask a couple of questions and just listen to you talk.
It would be fun.
I think that
we have some stories.
I think that would be great. And I know Greg Sweatman has like the complete he has a complete set of patches, and I'm sure there's just put the patches on the table and just let you guys go for a couple hours. I think that would be awesome.